Hey guys! If you have been following especially our hiking vlogs, you have noticed that I've been talking a lot about Pine Processionary Caterpillars. And that's why I decided to sit down and just give some information about them and explain why they're dangerous and why you really should care if you have dogs. First of all, they only exist where there are pine trees. That's why they're called Pine Processionary Caterpillars. They live in not only southern Spain, they live in most Mediterranean countries, which includes Portugal, Spain, Italy, probably Greece, without knowing exactly. Mohammed's sister also found out they are in northern Morocco when she checked out.
Exactly.
So it's all about the climate. Okay, so what is so dangerous about these creatures? They're about this big, 3 to 4 centimeters long, and they have millions of little hairs. So the little hairs, they function almost like an arrow. So when they fly around, they get stuck wherever they fly. And these are super poisonous. You can recognize them by they make these little white nests that almost look like spiderweb balls in the pine trees. That's where they grow. Okay, so they grow and they become big, and then after 3-4 weeks they will crawl down from the pine tree, and they will crawl in line, so they will basically be attached to one another. They can make lines up to 2 meters long, so you usually do see them when you walk on the trail, but sometimes one of them get loose or there are smaller lines. So it's just really important to make sure that you don't step on them, don't play with them, don't touch them. Why are they dangerous to dogs in particular? Dogs tend to stick their nose everywhere. They tend to lick anything they find, and if something stings on their paw, so if they step on it, they tend to lick it. So typical reactions that you can see in a dog is drooling, swollen tongue. They can get like white spots around their mouth and on their tongue, disorientation, vomiting, and things like that. If you notice that your dog gets stung by one, the most important thing is to get it to the vet straight away. The dog can die. So there are a couple of things that you can do to slow down the reaction, because what's happening is an allergic reaction, and it's the same that happens to people, and I'll get back to that. So it's an allergic reaction, and you can get some pills from the vet. I usually get from my vet, I actually don't even know what they're called, but these little white pills that he gives me, and he's like telling me I can give one to Ayla if she gets, or 2 actually because of her weight, I think. 2 of them, and it will slow down the allergic reaction. So it doesn't mean that she's fine after taking a pill. She has to go straight to the vet. But if you are, say, 2 hours in the middle of the forest on a hike, it's much better to have that and take it straight to the vet than trying to take it to the vet without it. Another thing that my vet has said that I can do is to pour cold water on the affected area, which also should slow down the process. I can't say if this is true or not because I haven't read it anywhere or found any information online from it. But coming from a vet that takes in animals every year and some of them dies from this, I would try it. I'd rather try that than not try it in case something happened. Humans can also get an allergic reaction. So as with any allergic reaction, people will react differently. Some people don't react much, maybe just itch a bit, and others will notice if you get hairs on your arm and your arm will swell up to double size. This means if you get one in the eye, like one of these hairs or many of these hairs, you might even turn blind. From the information I have found online, and I have studied a lot about it, mainly because I have a dog and it's a high priority for me to keep her safe when we go hiking so much. Babies, small children could also die from it, just as a dog. They're smaller, so make sure if you have small children, if there are pine trees around, just check if you see any nests or not. If you see nests, there's always a possibility that they will crawl on the ground. If you don't see any nests, they are not around, so then you don't have to worry. So what you do if your child gets any hairs from the caterpillars on themselves, obviously take them straight to the doctor. I would, to be honest, I would call the emergency number here in Spain. It's 112 112, and just to have some professionals on the line and see what to do. So if you take the child, or if they say okay, it sounds like it's okay, then yeah. But like, I can't give any professional advice here, but my advice is always to be safe than sorry, especially when it comes to children and animals, because they usually can't say so much themselves about how they react. The life cycle of these larvae, so these caterpillars, they start with being moths. So they fly up in the pine trees, they make their eggs on the pine needle, and then the larvae will create this spider web looking nest. What a lot of people don't know is that they go and forage on pines all night, and then they go back to their nest at daytime. So to grow and become big enough, like as I said before, 3 to 4 centimeters, they're big enough and they're good, so they leave the nest. But they do forage at night, and they can travel kilometers to forage on other pine trees. So they usually don't eat the pine tree where they are living themselves, but they travel. That means that even when they're not ready to get out of the nest and go to the next level of their life journey, you might encounter them at night, or their hairs might hang around on things at night. So I'm always very cautious when I go out with Ayla if I see nests, no matter how early or how small the caterpillars are, because they do go out at night. So it's not safe to go and say a sunset hike with your dog and there's caterpillars nests around, and then you walk back in the dark. Usually they stay in the nests and warm up and become nice and fat about 2 to 3 weeks, and then they will climb down. So they climb down, and you can often see them like in a little ball on the ground where they're kind of regrouping, and then they start making these lines like processions, which is why they're called Pine Processionary Caterpillars. They will walk in line until they find a place to dig a hole in the ground, and that's where they will lay and turn into nuts. And then they will fly up, usually around August if I'm not wrong, and then they will find a place to lay their eggs in late winter. So that's kind of the circle of this animal. The worst thing about it is that they do forage on the pine trees, so they can actually destroy big pine forests. There is one predator to them, so that there's no big predators. It's one bird that eat them, but no other predators, which means that they live quite fearlessly in their lives. They can really spread quickly. In natural parks and national parks, it's obviously not allowed to spray or to do anything to kill them, because it will also destroy other creatures and plants in the area. But in urban areas and areas that belong to, say, the ayuntamiento and things like that, they will normally spray so that it's safe around houses. However, there are places where there are pine trees that kind of don't belong to anyone, or that are privately owned. Maybe it's a private owner that doesn't use the land, and they don't care about the land. Where I lived before, it was on Costa del Sol, and we had 3 or 4 trees, pine trees, along a road, and nobody owned them. I don't know who owned them. They were always full of nests there, and they were crawling on the road. Cars drove over them. The hares are still dangerous. People are walking the dogs there, and they're not taking care. I really don't understand why people don't take care, because even though they're dead, their hair are poisonous. So I'm not going to give advice on how to get rid of them on yourself, like by yourself, because it can be dangerous. So if you step on them, or if you make movements around them, their hairs can fly around. I know people that have done that with a brush, tried to brush them away from their patio, and the hair flew everywhere, and she had allergic reactions all over her body. Not nice. So I really don't recommend doing anything yourself. I would start calling the ayuntamiento and see if they are responsible for it, and try to sort of figure out who is responsible to take it away. If it's your own private land and you have them in the pine tree in your garden, then you're most likely responsible yourself. So it should be some kind of company that removes dangerous bugs or whatever that can sort it out for you. I would not try to do it myself. I will definitely not give any recommendations on it, because I don't want to be responsible for any harm. But yeah, I would always call professionals to make sure that they get removed safely. But the season of the caterpillars is supposed to be March. They're supposed to crawl out of the nests in March. Thing is that there is a thing called global warming, there is a thing called changes in temperature, you can believe it or not, but it also means that their life cycle kind of gets disturbed a bit, and they come out at times that they normally wouldn't. So even though in the book they don't come out before March, I have been living on Costa del Sol for 9 years now. I have seen them as early as late December and usually early January. And you would think this is like, okay, Costa del Sol is warm, so when it's warm they come out earlier. But a few years back I saw them up in Sierra de Cazorla in Jaén, above 2,000 meters of altitude, and they had already crawled down from the nests. So I would personally I would start looking out for them from around Christmas. So just to not be surprised, because every year I get surprised that they come out earlier than I expect, even though I expect them to come out earlier than what they're supposed to. But I can't say how many times I meet other hikers in pine forests where I see them crawling across the path and they have their dogs just running free. And it's super dangerous, guys. So better to be aware if you're planning to take your dog on a hike. Check out first if you see any nests. If you see nests, chances that they might come out soon are quite big, so I would just leave the dog at home, take the dog to another hike. If you're hiking in Andalusia, I have a whole blog post about this where you can read everything I talked about now, plus probably a bit more in detail. You find the link here, and just you can copy paste the link from the description. I've also put in a list of hikes that don't have pine trees, so that if you're a dog owner in Andalusia, or you're planning to travel to Andalusia with your dog, you want to go hiking in the season, which is normally, I would say, until summer,
We
you
find
might
them.
see them.
We find them when we did the sunset hike.
Yeah, that was in Sierra de Mijas, Costa del Sol.
Yeah,
That was a few weeks ago, so that was January.
yeah.
So yeah, they had been seen out before, that's crawling around actually, but then we had really cold weather, so I was surprised to see them so big and fat in their nests.
Yeah.
That they looked overly happy.
Yeah.
So yeah, they can be seen until the heat in the summer, which is like the whole spring season in Andalusia pine forests is a period that I would really watch up for. But yeah, you can check out the blog. There are heaps of hikes without pine trees. If you're in Costa del Sol and the Malaga region, it is a lot of pine trees in the area, so you might have to travel a little bit to find places to take your dogs though. But there are heaps of really cool hikes that you can do with your dogs too. And that's all the information I'll give you for now. If you want to know more about these caterpillars, as I said, read the blog post. I have linked it in the blog.
In the
There you
description.
You find it in the description, yeah. I am constantly updating the post as I get new information. I really study this in depth every season because it's so important to me. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something new. Remember, if you know anyone in any Mediterranean country that have a dog or will be traveling here, share this vlog or the blog post so that they know about this. It's super important that the information gets spread. So many people don't even know about it. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next vlog.